Shaun Giebel. I'm the Product Management Director at OneSpin. We recently sent out a request to the RISC-V community asking if they had any questions about verifying RISC-core using formal methods. We heard back from quite a few individuals, and today I'd like to take the opportunity to answer some of those questions, as well as provide some details about OneSpin's RISC-V solution. Before I get into the questions, I just wanted to go over some of the verification challenges that we've heard from our customers. And the biggest one here is one of the requirements is that they trust the IP implementation. And there's a couple aspects to this. One is, have all the features been implemented? Have they been implemented correctly? Are there any bugs that are hiding in that implementation? And the most concerning one that our customers have is, are there any Trojans inside this IP? And these are all concerns regardless of where you get your IP from, whether it's an open source core, third-party vendor, or whether or not it was developed internally. Of course, traditional simulation methods have a very difficult time answering these questions, and people are looking to formal verification to exhaustively answer these. The first question I'd like to answer is there any special formal techniques for RISC-V only? And the answer is no, not really. Nothing specific for RISC-V. However, you do need to have a very detailed knowledge of the RISC-V ISA to create the correct set of properties and to make sure that the property set is complete. In creating these properties, one formal technique we like to recommend is interval property checking. And what these are just reusable system Verilog assertions, but there are some important aspects for these properties. One is that they do not start from reset, but from a generic valid state, that there's a limited number of cycles or intervals to reach the states, and it's important that you decouple the ISA spec requirements from the microarchitectural details. You will need to construct many properties in order to fully verify the RISC-V. And although you might be able to use any formal tool to verify these properties, it can take many man-months to create all the properties that are needed. And you might need some detailed knowledge of the formal tool that you're using in order to reach full convergence. The next question I'd like to answer is, what is the biggest challenge to verify RISC-V in terms of formal verification? The biggest challenge here is the design complexity. The RISC-V is a complex processor, and it is also flexible, right, where you can implement different configurations or different features from the ISA. A follow-on question to this is, since RISC-V is a huge design, how can one verify it, and what are the initial assumptions? It's hard to answer what the initial assumptions are, but how do you tackle a huge design like a RISC-V core? The best way is to divide and conquer. You focus on the core first, making sure that the protocols are not violated. You can then look at the caches and verify those separately to isolate some of the complexities. You can focus on interconnects between different blocks and units, and also look at X propagation. And again, you would do this at the block or unit level and not try to verify the X propagation at the whole core at once. Another technique is that you can use assume guarantee to validate the interfaces. Of course, some of these are generic formal technologies and methodologies, and they apply to any processor verification and are not necessarily specific to RISC-V. There is some formal expertise needed in order to apply the formal methods and techniques that I mentioned, and to be able to write the full and complete set of properties. This can take months in order to verify the full core, in order to make sure that you get an exhaustive verification of the core. OneSpin's RISC-V solution was developed with this complexity in mind, and the solution does use these formal methods that I discussed. Due to the fact that RISC-V is flexible, it's hard to develop a one-size-fits-all plug-and-play implementation. So there is some setup time that's required for OneSpin's RISC-V solution. It does take about 1 week of setup time. Once that setup is complete, the tool does generate reusable assertion verification IP. And once this verification IP is created, it typically takes about 2 hours for the run to complete to get the full verification, the exhaustive verification. This is a huge speed up compared to the months that it might take you if you're starting your RISC-V formal verification from scratch. The next question is, what would be the benefits of using formal tools instead of conventional simulation tools if a company desires to certify a RISC-V implementation against safety critical standards such as DO-254? To answer the second part of that question, if you'd like to know more details specifically about DO-254, you can visit us at onespin.com/DO-254. And the first part of that question is, what are the benefits over simulation? And of course, this is the exhaustive nature of formal. And this applies to any design and not just RISC-V. And again, the complexity plays a huge role in this and the ability to get convergence. But with the correct knowledge of the ISA and the complete property set with the right formal engines, it is possible to get exhaustive verification on a RISC-V core. Another part of that safety is, can I avoid vulnerabilities? Do I know that all my bugs exist? Are all of the paths correct? Many of these are almost impossible to catch with simulation, and formal really is the only technology that can prove the absence of something. So if safety is a concern, then you can't rely solely on traditional simulation methods, and formal must be part of your verification plan. The final question I'd like to answer today is, I've heard that RISC-V core is written in the Chisel language. So does OneSpin tool support that language? No, OneSpin doesn't support Chisel directly. Although there are some open source cores that, for example, from Berkeley, that are written in Chisel, there are many methods to easily convert the Chisel to Verilog, and that can be used in OneSpin. Of course, there are many cores, open source cores, that are written in Verilog, and those can be read in OneSpin as well. So no matter where you get your RISC-V core from, there is a path to verify that in OneSpin. So to wrap up, so I've covered some general formal methodologies that can be used to help you in verifying RISC-V challenges. But RISC-V does, or OneSpin does have a RISC-V solution that is tailored to the specific processor. It has a quick setup time and has already been proven on multiple RISC-V cores. I'd like to thank those who submitted their RISC-V verification questions. If you'd like to see more about OneSpin's RISC-V solution, you can visit us at onespin.com/solutions/RISC-V. Thanks. Have a great rest of your day.